culturally acceptable. So that was really something that I would say that that's a moment I will never forget, and thought in my mind, like, like either I can try to argue with him, which was useless, or figure out if that's really what I wanted to do. So that kind of prompted me. That's why I went to law school, said I don't ever want to be in a position where they can look at a resume and say that I don't have the paper qualifications, and then it will be up to them as to whether or not I'm the right person for the job. So eventually got hired on the football side, was at the Jets for 15 years, then took a position at the NFL in labor finance, did the labor negotiations with the collective bargaining agreement and the union. From there, went to the Cleveland Browns for a year, and then was at the Dolphins for 7, which is where Lynn and I spent some time negotiating, and then came back to the league. They created a position in 2017, and then I've been there for the past 9 years and have been at the New York Giants for the past 2 weeks. So,
wow! And tell me, the New York Giants caught me off guard and everything. And I watch your success. I watch you on the draft. I watch your growth, profession. I watch the growth of the NFL. How tough a decision was that to go back into team operations? Because you've done both.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of moved around, and I think for me, all of the decisions to move to the next thing have kind of made themselves. And it's been, you're in a position and you're responsible for your career. You're responsible for your growth and development, and the opportunities are things that you have to seek out. I think oftentimes people are looking for that. Well, what am I going to do next? Well, that's on you. Happy to help and assist, be a mentor, guide. It really was something that when it was presented, it was out of the blue, and thought about going back to the team side, but said it just has to be the right thing. And the thing that I think is most important for me that I've learned over the years is relationships. And I think just cultivating those, developing those, and really being able to say, is this the right fit? Am I the right person to supplement here? And I think that's part of the whole team culture. So to answer your question, the decision was really easy. It happened in the course of 2 interviews in 4 days.
And speaking of your experience when you're hand on the shoulder, you're a woman, talk about where we are today from where we were. As you look out and what I see in the lobby, it's pretty exciting talking about diversity.
To that end, I would say that when I first started, not only was I not allowed on the field to watch practice, but I couldn't even, they used to pull the shades. Like, you couldn't look out, you couldn't watch it, and women were nowhere to be, found really at that time. And then over the years, I would say that not a whole lot of progress over the first 20, I would say, but the last 10, I think, have really kind of opened the door to many women getting involved in all different areas of the business.
So, Don, you get close to Commissioner Goodell, and I grew up in Kansas City, so I watched the late Lamar Hunt called the Super Bowl after a Super Bowl, and I've witnessed the growth and the merger and all that. And now we've been over in London many times. I vision someday the globalization of the NFL. And today, talk a little bit about, it's been a plan that Commissioner Goodell gets a lot of credit, well, some owners, but talk about globalization of the NFL.
Yeah, I think that is one of the top priorities, and it really is to be a global sport. And to become a global sport, you need to be international. So that is a big part of it, having games overseas. We had for probably, 15 years been primarily in London. We went from 1 game to 2 games to 3 at times, and then went into Germany, which was pretty familiar to the NFL because NFL Europe being over there. But I think, over the past 3 years has really been an explosion. And that is Commissioner Goodell's vision, is he would like to have as many as he said 18 games over there in a season. So 17 games now, sorry.
Right. There's another voice out there.
No. 17. A full season of international. So, even last year was something where we had the Minnesota Vikings. They were a visiting team, and they spent 2 weeks over there. They came and they did Dublin, and then they flew over and they did London. And, there's always kinks along the way that we work out. And, but really now we're going to be in 4 continents in, this season. So
we're planning on doing a meet and greet in Australia. I went to school over in Australia, but the globalization, Talk about the ratings in the NFL and the Super Bowl. Talk about what you see now in the growth of the ratings.
I mean, it's astounding, really, in terms of the number of people that are watching it and the number of mediums on which it is being watched and all of the different content. So, that's also key. How do we keep seeing what is the future of this game look like, just not on the field, but also in terms of fan engagement?
So we had Adam Schefter here last year, and he brought one of our students who works for the Colts, and also let's talk about flag football. When I look at it and see how they're manufacturing it and what they did for the Pro Bowl, but then whose idea this evolved, but I think this is something bigger than big. It's pickleball versus tennis, but I talk about flag football. You can laugh, colleges are adopting it. But talk about, you think, the global implications of flag football.
Look, I think one of the things in terms of tackle football, it is not an easy sport to just toss someplace, not just from all of the equipment and everything else needed, but also the ability to just find a place to play the game and also the rules. So as we have gone into these countries, and a big piece started, I would say, in both Mexico City as well as in London, and really trying to figure out how do we get flag in schools. That was sort of the grassroots of it all. And I would say, as you go in the US, I have 4 kids. It was a place where you dropped your kid off on Sunday morning. They got to get all their energy out and, play flag football, great. And really was mostly boys, and over time became females. But it is something that I think we really look at as engaging people in the sport itself. It's a way to get females involved. It has been instrumental in so many ways, but one of the most critical, I think, and I think this is going to have long-term effects for women to be able to be a part of a competitive sport. They usually sort of tap out as they get to high school, because if you're not sort of at that growing elite level, you find another path, or you don't play anything. So I think that's really something that is instilling confidence in females. I've seen it, I've heard it. So I think just for so many reasons, and a lot of them similar to football, right? When you hear when the guys play it, they said that it's replicating something they can't do on their own.
Let me ask you, and you mind taking a couple of questions long as
sure.
our time frame. I'll get 3 on each side, whoever 3 want to ask. My question to you, we're talking about the growth and the globalization. Coming to the combine, the player now has NIL money. They're not poor. I'm just fascinated by picking the next, particularly in your case with the Giants. I love your organization, don't get me wrong, but I can't imagine what it's like selecting that draft pick with all the variables involved now. And what's your thought process on NIL transfer portal as far as the impact of identifying the talent?
Yeah, it's difficult, right? Because you're watching they're kids still, I think. My kids are older than that, but, and you're watching them. And in the past, you were seeing, players at a certain school. Maybe they transferred once. You're trying to track these kids now to evaluate them. They're in, 3 or 4 different environments, trying to figure out what is it that's translatable, trying to get a sense of the kid. But it's also a different type of player that we're getting into the NFL. They're informed, they're economically sound, some of them, and there's now a choice. Do I just stay in college and play there longer? So I think it's impacting the NFL today, but I think longer term, we really need to focus on what are those things that
I agree.
be engaged in.
Introduce and go with your question. We got our 6 questions.
Good morning. My name is Amber Houghton from Florida. And my question is, how is leadership deliberately built inside your organization, not just recognized? And how do you reinforce it across players, staff, and executives as a whole?
So I would say that in all of my experience, the head coach is the CEO of the organization, of the football side. He sets the tone, he sets the culture, he sets the accountability. And with the general manager, the head coach builds that roster. And I think just the alignment of not just the head coach and the GM, but also everyone else in the organization. And I see my role as such as carrying out that vision and ensuring that there is alignment, not just on the football side, but also on the business side. And every organization is slightly different, but the ones that have success, I think that it is very clear what sort of the ethos of that organization is.
Great answer. Next question.
Hi, Bradley Law, JD MBA, Michigan State. I connected with your law school path. I'm completing my law degree right now. What advice would you have to leverage that law degree to break into the industry? And then how did it come up in surprising ways for you to use it during your career?
So I think any time that you're continuing, that to me is an example of self-development, right? You are giving yourself another tool in your toolbox. And I think just any time that you can get, even if it's just an experienceship, even if it's not an internship, trying to see how you can use that to, to get an opportunity, and not just at the league level. Sometimes it's at college, sometimes it's in a related field that has connectivity to the NFL. And I think one of the places that there is the most opportunity right now, we talked about it, is internationally. So that would be there. And in terms of my use of my law degree, I can't, the ways in which I have been able to utilize it are countless. I mean, it's every day.
Yeah, good stuff. Next question.
Hi, Ms. Dawn. My name is Jack McQuaid. I'm from Kennesaw State University in Atlanta. I know you said that you had a close mentor of yours say that, it's kind of a crowded thing to do and it's not very realistic to get into football operations. I'm an aspiring scout, and I had something similar happen to me. I had someone very close to me tell me that, it's not very realistic, it's a crowded market, everything like that. Is there a piece of advice that you learned or something that somebody told you, or at least something like a piece of advice you could give for somebody trying to overcome something like that?
Besides coming to SMWW Conference.
Exactly.
That's a good start.
Yeah. Believe in yourself.
Okay.
If you have a conviction, you can make anything happen.
Yeah, good stuff. Next question.
Hi, Mr. Aponte. Thank you very much for speaking today and taking some of your time. I'm Skylar. I've worked as manager of football ops for close to a year now at the college level. I was just wondering, at the NFL level, what's an area of operations that people at the college level sometimes underestimate?
An area, I think skills, I would say organization.
Yeah.
And I think from the college landscape, that's something that you are doing 10 jobs compared to what many people at the NFL level is doing. So I think the more you can do, that's really the allure. And when we look to hire people there, that is a very valuable place to bring individuals into
And
the
John, real
NFL.
quickly before I go to the next question, Nolan was asked the question, with college athletics turning into a professional like front office, your comments on that, because I see college, they're highly paid, some of them, I see their qualifications for the college experience much more synergistic than ever before. Your comments on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think just you seeing like it's not just sort of the GM in college now, which is where it started, but they have now full staffs, personnel staffs, scouting, recruiting, managing the NIL money. I mean, in ways that are far more complex than the NFL, because we actually have rules and regulations. So it's, I think just getting a handle on all of those things and how do you transfer that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Last question
Thank
over
you very
here.
much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm William from Eugene, Oregon. I just wanted to talk about the overall global growth of the game, and that we see a competitive market every week. Everything's competitive except for one specific game, and that's the Pro Bowl. Has there ever been consideration where we consider making flag football from these flag football as a part of the growth of the NFL, where you have a crossover game, where you have the stars that are in the NFL versus the stars of flag football, or something along those lines, where we
I
can
would
make
say
the game
anything
grow?
will be possible in the future. And, it's public now that they're going to be having a game in Saudi, and NFL players are
Tom Brady.
permitted to participate.
My
Yeah.
children live in Abu Dhabi. I'm in a
nice,
new
yeah.
world right now.
Yeah.
So it's great. But
Yeah.
your comments of flag football,
Yeah.
what Brady's doing over there is et cetera.
I think, that's an example of sort of the early steps of this, but I am a believer that flag football is going to continue and become a professional sport on both male and female.
So a real quick question before we go to our last question. I always talk, they'll have a league over there, and even Commissioner Goodell finally mentioned a little bit, but this 18 games has really been their goal for a long time. It really is working, because when I watched when they first came over to Wembley, they didn't know what third down was. And today the sophistication, we were at Tottenham last year with the Minnesota game. We've been to Munich. I'm fascinated by how people are getting, understanding the game and everything.
Yeah, I think it is also just, the way that they're able to consume it media wise and that they're able to kind of get connected to the game.
Last question here.
Good morning, ma'am. Grant Parker from California Western School of Law. I also am, getting my law degree right now. My question's along similar lines. A lot of the internships or jobs that you see for teams right now are like in concessions. And so like my kind of question is, do you think it's kind of okay to start there and just get work your way up from anywhere that you can get a job or anything like that?
I think any way that you can get your foot in the door, if that's what you want to do, that's how you will build those relationships, make connections, and be able to be in a position to take advantage of any opportunities. Because I think in this business, it starts and ends with the individual.
We'll talk about those strategies all day. Don, my last question, we're always family first. You've got 4 kids. I'm fascinated with some of the, where they're working and all that, but let's talk about those 4 kids because they wasn't Don Aponte said, here's a job there. These kids worked hard. Talk about their strategies, the one with the Bears and the one with the Kansas City, because I think it's not easy being Don Aponte's son or daughter. It's still, they had to work hard. And talk about strategies there.
Yeah, I think, my son, who is now 29, he said from a very early age he wanted to be a coach. And I was like, okay, great. And, he would come to we were at the Dolphins for most of that time, and he would come and he started in the equipment room and he did laundry and he did the towels and he didn't get paid. And, it was like, I need to know how much you love this. So he was there throughout high school. He went to St. Thomas Aquinas and played football there, but he would come in early and come after school and, spend most of his time just helping out. Then he became a ball boy and then he started to travel. So, that was sort of the early days. Then when he went to college, he wanted to go Big Ten, and he got in Ohio State and Wisconsin and Penn State and Iowa. And he says, I want to go to the University of Iowa. And I said, if you gave me a map, I'm not sure I could pinpoint that exactly right now. But why? And because our coaches on staff had, relationships with Kirk Ferentz. So yes, there was a relationship aspect, but he went there not to play football. He worked for the football, again, for free for 4 years. And then he stayed there as a coaching intern for 3 after college, and then went to University of San Diego. And I have no, connections or involvement there. And he was the tight ends and running backs coach for 2 years, and the coach got fired, and then he became the OC. And then this past year, he took a step back, and he's quality control and offensive assistant at the Chicago Bears. So, he's had a long path to there, but finally he wanted to get to the NFL. My daughter, she went to Penn State. She said she wanted to be a scout. Again, maybe as a parent, I was treating her the same way I was treating you. And I didn't know James Franklin. First day she got there, she walked over to the football office and she said, I want to help out. And she actually ran into James Franklin and said, I just got here, and she worked in recruiting and kind of built relationships and did high school recruiting, wrote reports. And there was an opportunity at the Kansas City Chiefs where they had for the a Norma Hunt internship. So again, an example of where they started down the path of bringing women in, and they gave her an internship of football operations, scouting, and there was some other aspect there. But so she liked the scouting, and then after college, they offered her a job, and she was a scout. And her first 2 years, she had Super Bowl rings. She lost in her 3rd season. And I said, no one feels sorry for you, not especially me. And then they didn't make the playoffs this year. So, but yeah, I'm super proud of them. They work really hard. And then I have twins who are now in college. So.
I love it. And my last point, growing up in Kansas City, I tell the story, and I want you to hear it. I watched Lamar Hunt bring Kansas City from Texas. And I watched the American Football League with Al Davis. And I watched Lamar Hunt bring soccer to America. World Cup soccer, to me, has been an influence on what NFL is doing. If soccer can come to America, then NFL can go around the world. Your final comments about the future of the NFL?
I think the future of the NFL continues to grow, and I think that one of the greatest things is that we do have a commissioner that has not just short-term vision, but long-term, and he is thinking every day, and he pushes people, and he pushes the clubs, and, the sky is the limit, and I think as long as we are not getting comfortable, we will be successful.
Liz and I were in San Francisco for the Cleveland Summit. And John Wooden's a friend of both of ours. The Impact, he used to come and speak here. He doesn't travel as much as he used to. But your final comments on John's impact on the league and on our society?
Yeah, John was super passionate about, increasing the diversity in and around the league, not just on the field, but post-career. And I think that those have been opportunities for former players and they also, we talked about culture earlier, they help translate some of that, because they've been in those shoes. But, John has been tremendous. He's been a tremendous advocate and really, pushed that. And I think that that's, we need to continue that.
Folks, we're lucky to get her for a few minutes. Let's give her that SMWW. Thank you.